In my family, around the holidays, we do an entire table full of desserts, and there are always two cakes on that table. One is coconut and one is red velvet. A red velvet cake is not just a plain white cake with red food coloring added. It really has to have the hint of cocoa powder to make it authentic. So let me show you how to make a 2-layer red velvet cake that's perfect for your holiday table. Let's get started. First, we need 1 cup of canola oil. Any neutral oil works here. Then granulated sugar, 1 cup. This is half a cup of buttermilk. You need buttermilk because the acidity helps the cake rise. Then we need 4 teaspoons of red food coloring. And then we need 4 egg whites. We're just using the whites today. The last liquid ingredient we need is half a teaspoon of white vinegar. This is what's gonna react with the baking soda to make the cake rise, along with the buttermilk. And that is all of our wet ingredients. So I'm gonna beat this up and then we'll start adding our dry ingredients. Okay, time to add our dry. This is all-purpose flour. This is 1 cup plus 1/3 plus 1/4 cup. Then 8 teaspoons of cocoa powder. This is that characteristic red velvet flavor. A little bit of salt, and then half a teaspoon of baking soda. That's it. Let's beat this all together, and that is our entire red velvet cake batter. Okay, I have my oven at 350 degrees, and we're gonna divide this cake batter between 2 6-inch pans. I actually lined these with a little sheet of parchment paper in the bottom to help the cakes come out. Okay, just eyeball it and put half in each cake pan. We're gonna bake these on a sheet pan. I do this because the sheet pan evenly distributes the heat in the oven. And the cakes take about 30 to 35 minutes. Use a toothpick to test the center to make sure they're done. Okay, our red velvet cake layers are out of the oven. So while they cool, I'm gonna make our cream cheese frosting. Cream cheese frosting is the best frosting in the world, I'll fight you. So for that, I pulled out an 8-ounce block of cream cheese, and I pulled it out a couple hours ago. It's nice and soft and room temperature. This is gonna let it cream up and get nice and fluffy for us. And then we also need an entire stick of butter. This is unsalted butter, also at room temperature, nice and creamy and soft. Let's get this going. Let's just cream these together before we start adding in our powdered sugar. It's time to start adding our powdered sugar. This is 4 cups. I'm gonna start with about 1/4 of it at a time. Just go slowly so the powdered sugar doesn't fly everywhere. And then we're gonna add a little vanilla extract. This is vanilla bean paste. This is what I have today, but a half teaspoon of either works. And then we need 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. That will make everything come together, but I'm gonna start out by just adding a splash and add more as we need it. Okay, we're done, but I'm covered in frosting all over my giant pregnant belly. So let's take care of that. If you're not getting messy in the kitchen, you're not having fun. So that's just a hazard of the job. Okay, let me clean up and make some space, and then we're gonna frost our cake layers. Our cakes are cooled, so it's time to stack them. So this is our first layer. I'm gonna put this one on the bottom. And then I wanna show you a trick so that your cakes are perfectly flat and level. We're gonna cut off the top of the cake so that it's nice and level. Cut all the way across. I always put a little dab of frosting in the center just to hold the cake in place. And then flip it over and put it flat side up. Okay, let's get our next layer. Flip it out. Okay, now this one is ready to go, and it's time to frost our cake. I really like a nice, pretty, clean cake. So one of the things I do is I establish a crumb coat on all of my cakes first. I'll show you what that means. Let's put a thin layer of frosting for the middle of our cake. Maybe about a half cup of frosting. Use your offset spatula to get it almost to the edge. You can leave about an inch border because the top layer is gonna smush the frosting out towards the edges. Okay, so a crumb coat is a messy coat. We're not gonna worry about how many crumbs actually stick to the frosting. Push it to the edges, it'll start to naturally start falling over the edges. It's okay if you can see the cake peeking through. Okay, I have a nice thin layer of frosting all the way around the cake. And now we need to refrigerate this because the point of a crumb coat is to trap all of the crumbs in the frosting so that when you do a final layer, you have perfectly smooth frosting. Let's put this in the fridge. Okay, my cake is done. It chilled for an hour. It's nice and firm. That's what we want. So we're gonna do our final beautiful layer of cream cheese frosting. Almost everything that's left in the bowl goes on the top because it makes it easier to frost the sides. I'll show you. So then start smoothing the top, and it will naturally start to fall over the edges. So on the top, I like a nice swirl. And then I'm gonna go around the edges, turning the plate and not moving the spatula very much at all. So beautiful. I cannot wait to eat this. I hope you make this recipe and let it grace your Christmas dessert buffet table. For the full recipe, visit dessertfor2.com.